I ruined a stranger's life by doing the right thing, and the worst part is that everyone still tells me I did the good thing. It started on a rainy Tuesday morning when I was already late and irritated at the world for no real reason. The train platform was packed, the kind of crowd where everyone stands too close and pretends not to notice each other. The digital board flickered, announcing another delay, and a collective groan rolled through the station. I was scrolling mindlessly on my phone, half listening to a podcast, half rehearsing excuses in my head for my boss. That's when I heard the shouting. At first, it blended into the usual city noise. Raised voices, impatience, the background hum of too many people living on top of each other. Then it sharpened into something specific. Desperate, angry. A man was yelling at a woman near the edge of the platform. I looked up and saw them clearly. The man was tall, red-faced, wearing a wrinkled suit that looked like it had been slept in. The woman stood rigid, clutching a tote bag to her chest like a shield. She was calm on the surface, but her eyes kept darting, calculating distances, exits, witnesses. "Give it back," the man shouted. "You don't get to walk away like this." People were watching now, pretending not to. Phones were already half raised, that modern reflex to record instead of intervene. "I told you," the woman said quietly, her voice barely cutting through the noise. "This is not the place." He laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "You didn't think I'd find you? After everything." That was the moment my instincts kicked in. I don't know if it was moral courage or just annoyance, but something snapped into place. I stepped forward without thinking it through. "Hey," I said, loud enough for both of them to hear. "Back off." They both turned toward me. The woman's eyes widened slightly, surprise flickering across her face. The man sized me up, eyes narrowing. "This doesn't concern you," he snapped. "It concerns everyone when you're screaming at someone on a platform," I replied. My heart was pounding, but my voice stayed steady. "Leave her alone." A few other people murmured agreement. The crowd shifted. The man realized he was losing control of the situation. He leaned closer to the woman anyway. "This isn't over," he hissed. She said nothing, just stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling station security," I said. That did it. The man stepped back, hands raised in mock surrender. "Fine," he said loudly. "You win." He turned and disappeared into the crowd, still muttering under his breath. The woman exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for minutes. Her shoulders sagged slightly. She looked at me, really looked at me, and for a second I thought she might cry. "Thank you," she said. "You didn't have to do that." "I'm glad I did," I replied, and I meant it. The train arrived moments later, and we boarded in opposite directions. I watched her disappear into another carriage, already fading into the anonymous mass of commuters. I assumed that was the end of it, a small moment of decency in an otherwise forgettable day. I was wrong. Later that afternoon, while eating a sad desk lunch, my phone started buzzing non-stop. Notifications piled up faster than I could read them. Messages from friends, mentions, tags. Someone had filmed the confrontation. Not just the shouting, but me stepping in. The video cut out the beginning and the end, trimming it into a neat, dramatic clip. A man yelling, a woman cornered, a stranger intervening. The caption read, "This is how you protect someone." It was already everywhere. By the end of the day, the video had millions of views. People were praising me for being brave, for restoring their faith in humanity, for not being a bystander. Strangers sent messages calling me a hero. Influencer accounts reposted it. Morning shows requested interviews. I tried to stay out of it. I didn't give my name to any outlet. I told friends to stop tagging me. But the internet doesn't care about your discomfort once it decides you're useful. The comments were relentless. Most were supportive, some were dramatic, others aggressive in that way people get when they want to feel morally superior. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone projected their own story onto mine. The woman, however, remained anonymous, or so I thought. 3 days later, I got a message from an account with no profile picture and a username made of random letters. Please tell me it was you in the video. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Yes, I wrote back. Are you okay? There was a long pause. I imagined her sitting somewhere, phone in hand, deciding what to say. No, she finally replied. I'm really not. We moved the conversation off the platform. She didn't want to talk on social media. We exchanged emails instead, a strange formality that made the situation feel heavier. Her name was Claire. She told me the man wasn't a stranger. He was her former employer, and her life was unraveling faster than she could stop it. Claire worked in a high-level consulting role, the kind of job that requires discretion, loyalty, and silence. The man who confronted her had been her mentor for years, someone who opened doors for her, shaped her career. Behind closed doors, he crossed lines. Subtle at first, comments, pressure, expectations that had nothing to do with work. She documented everything quietly, planning to leave once she had another offer. The morning on the platform, he'd realized she was gone, that she wasn't coming back, that she had evidence. He thought I was meeting a journalist, she wrote. He panicked. My chest tightened as I read. She told me the video went viral inside their industry before it went viral anywhere else. People recognized him instantly. He was suspended within hours. Investigations began. His family was dragged into it. His kids' names started trending alongside accusations. I didn't want it like this, Claire wrote. I wasn't ready. I typed and deleted half a dozen responses. I didn't know what to say. I had stopped a public confrontation. I hadn't forced anyone to film or share it. I'm sorry, I finally wrote. I thought I was helping. I know, she replied. That's what makes this harder. Over the next week, the story grew. Articles speculated. Anonymous sources leaked information. The man was fired. Lawsuits were filed. Commentators debated workplace ethics, abuse of power, public shaming. Claire's name eventually surfaced anyway, not because she chose it, but because someone connected dots they weren't supposed to. Her inbox filled with hate and praise in equal measure. People dissected her past, her choices, her silence. Armchair judges decided what she should have done, when she should have spoken, how she should feel. I can't leave my apartment, she wrote one night. Everyone thinks I wanted this. I started losing sleep. I replayed the moment on the platform over and over. If I hadn't stepped in, if I just looked away like everyone else, would her life still be intact? Would she have handled it quietly on her own terms? The praise I was still receiving felt nauseating. Every "you did the right thing" comment landed like a weight on my chest. 2 weeks later, Claire asked if we could meet. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to avoid making things more complicated. Another part felt like I owed her that much. We met at a small cafe far from the city center. She looked different than she had that day on the platform. Smaller somehow. Tired. Her confidence had been replaced by a constant vigilance, like she was waiting for something else to go wrong. I don't blame you, she said before I could speak. I need you to know that. I nodded, unsure what to do with my hands. I still feel like I broke something I can't fix. She smiled sadly. You exposed it. That's different. We talked for hours. About her career, her fears, the strange cruelty of public opinion. About how quickly strangers decided who she was based on a clip that lasted less than a minute. When we parted ways, she hugged me. It was brief, but heavy with unspoken things. As I walked away, my phone buzzed again. Another message, another notification, another article. The world had decided the story was simple. Hero saves woman. Villain exposed. Justice served. But standing there, Watching Claire disappear down the street, I knew something everyone else didn't yet. This story wasn't over. Not even close. The fallout didn't slow down. It accelerated, like a machine that had finally found momentum and no longer needed fuel from the people it was crushing. A week after I met Claire at the cafe, her former employer's face was everywhere. News panels dissected his expressions frame by frame. Headlines used words like predator, tyrant, monster. His resignation letter leaked online. Then his apology. Then screenshots from people who claimed they'd always known. The internet did what it always does best: rewrite history so everyone looks innocent in hindsight. What people didn't see was Claire unraveling in real time. She stopped replying to emails for days at a time. When she finally did, her messages were shorter, clipped, like she was conserving energy just to exist. "They're calling my parents," she wrote one night. "Old neighbors, people I haven't spoken to in years." I stared at the message, my stomach twisting. How did they even find them? "Someone sold my information," she replied. "Or someone guessed. It doesn't matter anymore." I wanted to offer help, but every suggestion felt hollow. What do you say to someone whose privacy has been ripped open and fed to millions? The irony was brutal. The same people praising accountability were doxing her under the excuse of curiosity. The same voices demanding justice were demanding more details, more trauma, more proof, as if her pain was content they were entitled to consume. I started noticing a shift in how people spoke to me, too. At work, colleagues treated me differently. Some admired me openly. Others avoided me, like proximity might drag them into something messy. My boss joked during a meeting, "At least we know you're brave in a crisis." And everyone laughed. I didn't. Friends asked invasive questions. "So what really happened? Did she tell you everything? Do you think he deserved it?" Deserved it. That word followed me everywhere. One evening, Claire called me instead of texting. Her voice sounded fragile, like it might crack at any moment. "I need to tell you something," she said, "and you might hate me for it." My chest tightened. "Just tell me." She took a breath. I wasn't going to report him. Not officially. I stayed silent, letting her continue. "I had another job lined up," she said. "Different city, different industry. I was going to walk away quietly, take my evidence with me in case he ever tried something again. That's all." I closed my eyes. "So when the video went viral," she went on, "I lost control of the timing, the narrative, everything." I swallowed hard.
"I'm sorry."
"I know you are," she said quickly. "That's why I'm telling you, because I don't want you thinking I'm some symbol or a cause. I just want it out." After we hung up, I sat alone in my apartment for a long time, replaying the day on the platform again. The shouting, the crowd, my voice cutting through the noise. I had acted on instinct, on a lifetime of being told that silence equals complicity. But no one ever talks about what happens when speaking up detonates a life instead of saving it. 2 days later, things got worse. An anonymous article surfaced online claiming Claire had exaggerated events for attention. It cited unnamed sources, cherry-picked details from her career, questioned her motives. The comments were vicious. She knew what she was doing. Why wait so long to say something? Funny how this helped her get famous. I sent Claire the link with a warning before she could stumble onto it herself. She replied almost immediately. "I've already seen it," she wrote. "They're starting to win." That sentence terrified me. The pressure broke her in ways I didn't see coming. She withdrew completely, stopped answering calls. Her social media accounts vanished overnight. I worried constantly, checking my phone like it might tell me something before it was too late. Then, one morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Detective Harris," a calm voice said. "I'm calling regarding an ongoing investigation. We'd like to ask you a few questions." My pulse spiked. "About what?" "An incident you were involved in at the central station." A few weeks ago, I agreed to meet. The interview room was smaller than I expected.
Nors leaks, nobat copthatrix.
Just questions. Precise, careful ones. What made you intervene? Did you know either party? Did you encourage anyone to record? I answered honestly. When I mentioned the video's impact, the detective nodded slowly. You should know, he said, that your intervention is being cited as a key trigger in several legal actions, civil and criminal. The word trigger echoed in my head. So, did I do something wrong? I asked. He paused. Legally? No. Ethically? That's not for us to decide. I left feeling colder than when I'd arrived. That night, Claire finally called again. I'm leaving, she said. Tonight. Leaving where? I asked, standing up instinctively. Out of the country. I can't do this anymore. Fear surged through me. Are you safe? I will be, she said. I need you to understand something. I listened, barely breathing. If you hadn't stepped in, she said, he would have cornered me somewhere else. Maybe worse. You didn't cause this. You just sped it up. Tears burned my eyes. That doesn't make it feel better. I know, she said softly, but it makes it true. We stayed on the phone until she reached the airport. When she hung up, there was a finality to it that made my chest ache. Days turned into weeks. The story faded, replaced by newer scandals, newer outrage. The man's trial dragged on quietly. Claire disappeared into anonymity again, this time by choice. Life tried to return to normal, but something fundamental had shifted inside me. I stopped intervening. When I saw arguments in public, I looked away. When voices rose on the street, I kept walking. I told myself it wasn't fear, it was respect for complexity, for consequences. Still, guilt gnawed at me. Had I learned the wrong lesson? Was I now complicit in silence again? The question followed me until one night, months later, when I received an email with no subject line. It was from Claire. I'm okay, it read. Better than I was. I'm starting over. Relief washed through me so hard I had to sit down. At the end of the email, she wrote one last thing. People still ask if you were the hero that day. I don't think they understand the question. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, knowing she was right, because the truth wasn't clean. And the worst part was this. I still don't know whether I'd do it again. By the time Claire's email arrived, I thought the story was over. That was the lie I told myself so I could sleep. The email sat open on my laptop for almost an hour before I reread it. It was calm. Too calm.
No panique, no trauma dumping, no bitterness.
Just controlled sentences written by someone who had learned how to survive by locking emotions behind glass.
I'm okay.
Better than I was. I'm starting over. People love endings like that. Survivors who escape. Closure neatly tied with distance and time zones. But real life doesn't respect endings. I tried to move on. I really did. I changed routines, stopped reading news comments, stopped searching her name. I forced myself back into the version of reality where I was just a guy who happened to speak up once and then went back to being invisible. For a while, it almost worked, until the invitations started. Panels, podcasts, universities, ethics in the digital age, bystander intervention and moral responsibility. People wanted me to explain that day, to dissect it, to turn instinct into doctrine. I said no to all of them. Every single one, because the more distance I gained, the more uncomfortable the truth became. The truth was that I hadn't acted out of pure courage. I acted because something in me snapped, because I was angry, because I was tired of watching powerful assholes operate like gravity didn't apply to them. No one wants that version of the story. They want heroes who act cleanly and disappear quietly afterward. About 6 months later, I got subpoenaed. Civil case. The man Claire accused was suing everyone he could touch. His former company, the transit authority, the media outlets, and yes, me. Not because he thought he'd win, but but because he wanted to punish. His lawyers asked me the same questions over and over, changing the wording slightly each time, like they were searching for a crack in my memory. Did you believe a crime was occurring? Did you have all the facts? Were you influenced by the presence of cameras? At one point, one of them leaned forward and said, almost kindly, "Do you think it's possible you misinterpreted a consensual interaction?" I felt something dark rise in my chest. "I think," I said slowly, "that you're asking the wrong person." They smiled like that answer pleased them. The case dragged on. Most days nothing happened. Then suddenly everything happened at once. Motions, filings, settlements whispered about but never confirmed. And then, without warning, Claire showed up again. Not physically, digitally. A new article surfaced. Different outlet, different tone. Less outrage, more analysis. It framed her not as a victim, not as a hero, but as a catalyst. The piece included a quote attributed to her. No date, no location. "Sometimes the worst part of surviving isn't what happened to you," it read. "It's watching everyone else decide what it meant." That line went viral. People argued about it like it was scripture. Was she criticizing the movement, praising it, regretting it? I knew better than to assume clarity. I emailed her, unsure if the address still worked. "I saw the article. Are you okay?" She replied the next day. "Yes, but I need to tell you something, and you need to hear it without trying to fix it." That sentence alone made my stomach drop. We scheduled a call. Her voice sounded different, stronger, sharper, like someone who had learned how to hold pain without letting it leak. "I didn't disappear to heal," she said. "I disappeared to think." "About what?" I asked. "About ownership," she replied. "Of my story, and yours." I frowned. "Mine." "You became part of it," she said gently, "whether you wanted to or not." She told me she had turned down book deals, documentaries, paid interviews, not because she wanted silence, but because she wanted control. "Everyone keeps asking if you saved me," she said, "or if you ruined my life." I exhaled. "And what do you tell them?" "I tell them neither," she said. "I tell them you changed the direction. That's all." We sat in silence. Then she said the thing I wasn't prepared for. "I'm thinking about speaking publicly again." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Are you sure that's safe?" She laughed softly. "Safety is relative." "Why now?" I asked. "Because the narrative is drifting," she replied. "And if I don't step back in, it'll solidify without me." I understood that instinct too well. "Will you talk about that day?" I asked. "Yes," she said, "but not the way people expect." When her interview finally aired, I watched alone. No dramatic music.
No pauses. No vilen monologues.
She spoke calmly, methodically, dismantling assumptions one by one. She said she didn't regret speaking up, but she also didn't romanticize it. She said she wasn't empowered by exposure. She was exhausted by it. And then she said this: "I didn't ask to become a symbol, but I understand why people needed one. What I want now is for people to stop asking whether someone is a hero or an asshole, and start asking what it costs when we demand either." The reaction was explosive. Some praised her honesty. Others accused her of undermining accountability. A few even turned on her completely, claiming she was walking it back. And then came the part that broke me. Near the end of the interview, the host asked, "If you could go back, would you want him to intervene?" Claire paused, longer than felt comfortable. "I don't know," she said, "and anyone who says they're sure is lying." The internet lost its mind. They wanted certainty, validation, a moral receipt. They didn't get it. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her answer, not because it hurt, but because it was honest in a way people hate. Weeks later, the lawsuit against me was quietly dropped.
No epalegi. No explanation.
Just silence. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt hollow, because I realized something no one talks about. Intervening didn't end the harm. It redistributed it. Claire carried some. Strangers carried some. Even the man who caused it carried some, though not in the way he deserved. And the world moved on, satisfied it had consumed another story. Sometimes I still imagine that platform, the moment before I spoke, the version of me that hadn't made a choice yet. People ask me now what they should do if they see something like that. I never answer the same way twice, because the truth is this: doing nothing can destroy you. Doing something can destroy someone else. And doing the right thing doesn't guarantee you'll recognize yourself afterward. So here's the question I leave people with, the one that never gets answered cleanly. If you knew the cost in advance, not just to yourself but to everyone involved, would you still open your mouth? And if you say yes without hesitation, are you sure you're not just looking to be the hero? If this story made you uncomfortable, good. That means you actually felt it. Stick around, subscribe, and listen to the next one, because the stories that make you argue in the comments are the ones worth hearing.